morning, you're welcome to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. My name is Romet Paulson.
And I am Nyamgul Agadian. It never gets old. We can always keep saying Happy New Year until the end of January.
I know.
Which eventually might have like 90 days.
No, but I think January has been moving so fast. Can you believe that we're already in the 7th day?
It's just 7th.
What do you mean it's just 7? We just said Happy New Year a few minutes ago.
Wait until you get to the 15th. You will be asking yourself, when was the last time we prayed?
But I feel like last year, January went by so quickly. This year, it seems the same. But I feel like it might just be adulting. And then it is perspective when you say it's long or it's short.
Yeah, well, everything is in perspective. Last year, it really did go very fast. And I was wondering why, because it shouldn't go that fast.
Because January is known to be like the longest month.
And the entire year, you know, from the inauguration of the new president to that time was very, very terrible, forgive the word, but so January went fast, and it was a good thing that January went so fast.
Well, let's just see what happens this time around. Yeah, welcome to the Breakfast Show. It's the 7th day of January 2024. How are you doing? Today we'll be looking at several hot topics, one of which is we'll be talking more about business. So 2024, the most challenging year for MSMEs, and that's according to ASBON. We'll also be diving into politics. So this says Rivers politics, Wike Odili's field, not good for Rivers development, and that is according to Ogbebo. We'll also be taking global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies, as well as some top trending stories. But first, let's check out our quote of the day. And so this says, once a new technology rolls over you, if you're not part of the steamroller, you're part of the road. And that is according to Stuart Brand. He was an American writer. He's about 86 years old now, and he's been known to be a project developer, also the co-founder and the editor of the Whole Earth Catalog, and he has founded a number of organizations, including the Well, the Global Business Network, and the Long Now Foundation. And he says this morning, once a new technology rolls over you, if you're not part of the steamroller, you're part of the road. So you have to choose which side you want to be on. Are you going to move with technology, or are you just going to be there?
Yeah.
And be archaic.
And be, if you are part of the road, that means it will move
over you.
It will trample on you.
Yeah.
It will, every other person will use you to grow and all that. So be a part of it. But be a part of a wholesome technology. Be a part of technology that will help improve your life and improve the lives of humanity. It's not just because it's technology you have to jump on it, but technology that is good enough. Right now, everybody's talking about AI, and I think everybody should think about having a feel of that AI, trying to know a little bit about AI, even if you are not so versed in it, but know a little bit about it.
You can even use it. Yeah, you can use it to your own advantage. For instance, there's Chat GPT. There are so many. There's the one from Google as well, whereby you just put a prompt and it gives you all the information that you need. So instead of staying and saying, "Oh, I have to be this way," you want to be stuck in time. Why don't you use it for your own benefit? For instance, I remember the first time that Google came. You know how they say Google is your friend. Anything you want, you can just search it on Google. But there are still some people that were not into, oh, I'm not into computers, oh, I'm not into smartphones. But now it has revolutionized the world, and that's what AI is doing. But like you said, it has to be positive technology. Yeah. So you have to know where you're going to be at. We're not going to tell you, oh, because it's technology, go and start making bombs. Or start making guns and selling to criminals. That is you being on the wrong side of it. But anything that can impact your life, impact your society, is what you should be looking at. And do not stay and just be archaic. You have to be updated every single day. The world is changing. It is so dynamic that, things are moving by so quickly. So you always want to move with it. And just like what Stuart Brand is saying this morning, if you're not part of the steamroller, you're part of the road. So you have to choose wherever you want to play at.
Two things there. Sometimes we just resign ourselves to fate and say, okay, I'm too old for this. Let the other people who are younger do this. In one of the stations that I worked, the oldest man there was the engineer. He would retire and they would go and beg him to come back because he knew everything, and every new technology that came out, he was the first to know how to operate it and all. He was the oldest man in that place, and just imagine it was a civil service it was a government-owned facility. So you know how those people do age declaration and all that. And for someone to be the oldest in that place, you know how old he was. So you are never too old. And the second thing is that don't take for granted that because you know it, the next person knows it. Be patient enough to teach them. Some people just see it as very complicated and they cannot learn it. So be patient and teach whoever asks your help to get these things done. There are people who still do not know how to send emails, and you will laugh at them in this day and age, but you never know their background and the kind of phobia they have had for technology and improvements or
as long as they're willing to learn.
So anybody who is willing to learn, teach that person. Anybody who needs it but doesn't know they need it, try to
also let them know.
Teach them and let them know that it's important.
I love the fact that you spoke about age, and I think for that man, it comes from a place of humility. You're humble enough to say, I want to be able to learn every single day. And you know how they tell you to unlearn? You know, to learn, yes, learn, unlearn, and relearn. So you're at that point where I'm humble enough to put myself down that I don't know it all, and I'm ready to learn. And for the other people who do not even know it, as long as they're willing to learn, why not? Because like I said, technology has taken over the world, and you do not want to just be a passerby.
When there was cash crunch and so many other things, that there are businesses that you'll go to and you ask them for POS, they're like, for this small business, now you want to get POS. They don't know how important it is. They feel that you have to be a very big company before you operate a POS and all that. There was no cash. So get something that we can do technologically. We can do this transaction, but they don't want to do that. So these people like this need orientation, because without that orientation, they may still be stuck in that, thinking that we can.
And this is something that has to do with everyday living.
We can get things done, so why bother?
I agree with you. All right, let's move over to our top trending stories this morning. This says Nigerians angry over high transport fares despite fuel price drop. Despite the recent drop in fuel prices, Nigerians are frustrated that transport fares have not gone down. On December 19, 2024, Dangote Refinery reduced the price of petrol from 970 naira to 899.50 per litre. But transporters have now reflected this change in fares, or rather, they've not reflected this change. Instead, fares are still rising. After the price cuts, Dangote also partnered with MRS petrol stations to sell fuel at 935 naira per litre. But many commuters feel that transporters are taking advantage of the situation. Many Nigerians have taken to social media to voice their anger. They point out that when fuel prices went up, transport fares increased quickly. But now that fuel prices have come down, fares remain high. Some say the fare for the routes has nearly doubled, even though fuel prices have only dropped slightly. Others argue that the reduction in fuel price isn't enough to make a real difference in transport fares. The president of the National Association of Chambers and Commerce, Dele Oye, explained that the high cost of transport is partly due to Nigeria's reliance on imports and the dollar influence on prices. He also noted that the country does not produce enough to meet its need, making it more expensive to bring in goods, including vehicles. Oye believes that Nigeria needs to focus on on increasing local production to reduce reliance on imports and stabilize prices. Transportation cost. This whole December, looking at those car hailing apps, yes, I think that's what they're called, transportation was ridiculous. The prices doubled and tripled. But I understand that there are several factors. And I mean, it depends on where you're getting your fuel from. So for MRS, which I bought this morning, and that was the first time I was going to MRS, I bought this morning at 935 naira, and I'm like, okay, finally, because I've been buying for like 1,070 naira. Even though the prices have reduced, there's still stations that are selling over 1,000 naira. And of course, if these, the transport companies or whatever it is, if they go there to buy, it's still going to be the same thing.
Yeah, one of the reasons these things might be this way is a lot of people are afraid of tomorrow. They're not sure.
What if the price goes up?
Yes,
again?
So they're doing this. Let's capitalize on this. Another thing is that we are the people who are wicked to ourselves, because no matter. Some people are even operating CNG buses, but they charge the same as the people who are operating the petrol
and
buses.
You're saving a lot more.
Yes. So if you're buying CNG for 300 naira and someone is buying petrol for 1,000 something, even if it's just 1,000 naira, the difference is a whole lot. And then you're charging the same thing. So like we say on the streets, is now we did do ourselves. That's one thing. But the government gave them the opportunity to be able to do this. Now, for instance, the government promised the whole of Nigeria 100 buses, and till now we've not seen it.
Why did you chuckle when you said the whole of Nigeria?
Because we're so used to the lies and all. Let me give you a practical example. If the government did, okay, for instance, Lagos State, you have a little choice of going on the train or on the bus, or you're taking a car or a normal yellow bus. You have that choice. So they've done a whole lot. But, okay, you go to Ogun State. If you're moving from, let's say, Mowe to Tollgate, or where they call 7-Up and all that, from there they are going to charge you at least 800 naira. But when the CNG bus that is floated by the state government comes, whether it is early morning, late afternoon, evening, it is charging you 300 naira. You see the difference. So people will want to queue and see that they take this. Imagine, I've counted only 3 of these buses. I don't know whether there are more, but I've counted 3. Imagine that the Ogun State government had like 20 of these buses. Everybody will know that in every maybe 20 minutes.
You have times.
Yeah,
yes,
every 20 minutes
times.
you're going to have this bus. So it's either the regular buses charge the same fares, or they
because
can go
because they know that they won't have their customers.
So if the government did something deliberate about transportation, float a lot of trains everywhere in Nigeria, you can have trains that are as clean and as cheap as the one in Lagos State, because I think that is very cheap and fast. So if they can do that, the other people will be forced to bring down their prices. If they can float buses and water transportation,
the same thing that has happened with the
So if I'm going to
price.
Calabar, for instance, I could decide to take a cruise ship or something and go to Calabar because water transportation is there. But check out this. Before Christmas, if you were traveling to Ogoja in Cross River, where I come from, it will cost you between 30 and 35,000. The people who went for Christmas, every of them paid at least 60,000. So what cost it? It is not exchange rate. It is not petrol, because petrol, let's say, did not change.
It's demand, because they know that a lot of people want that service at that point.
Yeah.
Demand and supply.
So our people like to exploit situations.
Yes.
And
I feel like if we have proper regulations, that should work, because the honest truth is, it's a saying, and it's something that I've seen happen time and time again. Whatever goes up in Nigeria doesn't come down. So this transport fees and fuel, whatever that everybody's complaining about, is just the dynamics of Nigeria. Like, whatever goes up, most times, how many times have you seen bag of rice come down or gari come down?
We don't have economic gravity. So
it's not like, because the price is going up, then, you know how you see the graph. No, it's almost like it goes up, it stays up, and it goes up from there. So there's nothing like it's coming down. But if we have proper regulation, maybe that should just work. And the introduction of, more buses, more transport systems. So it's not just buses. We're talking trains, we're talking trams, anything that can ease transportation in Nigeria, that should definitely work for us.
Well, the national leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students is facing internal conflict over the distribution of compressed natural gas (CNG) buses to universities across Nigeria. A faction within the student body has accused the NANS national president, Comrade Lucky Monefe, and the Student Senate President, Comrade Babatunde Akinteye Afeez, of being selective in their distribution, leading to unequal access to the buses. This faction has passed a vote of no confidence on the two leaders, citing unfair practices in the allocation process. They have called for urgent intervention from President Bola Tinubu and other key authorities to prevent further unrest. Okay, so things like this always happen in Nigeria. Why does it have to be a human factor that will determine where what goes? Why shouldn't they just be a template that, okay, if these buses arrive, this is how much that goes will go here, how much will go here, and somebody has to determine who gets what and where it goes.
And that's where lobbying comes in, because everybody wants to lobby. I want more, in my own university, and of course, it's corruption. So you can see how bad corruption has eaten so deep into the society that it's like a normal thing, because this should not be normal. Like you said, you should know, it should be on paper, as these buses are coming, this is what is allocated to this place, this is what is allocated to this other location.
You just go get the buses.
And yes, but when you're already doing, like, how they say mago, and already trying to lobby.
This also brings me to the fact that we've talked about student loans, and it seems some students are accessing these loans. But I know people in some institutions that till date
they haven't.
And the excuse is that their school has not uploaded the data, the necessary data. And I'm just asking myself, what necessary data? Don't you have this data in this school? How do you admit people? How many students do you have in your school? So you don't have this data. What data do they need? I give you a case in point, Unical. All the students in Unical that I've asked, I have not asked the lecturers or most of the lecturers, but the ones that I've asked and the students that I've asked have always told me this, that there's still something else. And then someone sent me a message yesterday, a screenshot of a message yesterday when they were trying to access the student loans. And they said some information is still missing. And I'm asking myself, how? What is going on in this time that people are looking for a way to at least finish school so that they can come sit down and say, okay, I'll be paying this loan, small, as we say, you know. But now they are not able to access it.
It's almost like
and some other schools
there are select few that can, that can access the loans.
So I don't know, even maybe within Unical there are people who have accessed the loan and others do not know how to go about it. So,
but shouldn't there be adequate information out there? And even with the schools, because now maybe it's not even the students. If, for instance, it is true that some data is missing or whatever, then shouldn't they be telling these schools that these are the things we need, these are the requirements? So make sure that you upload all of these things in this time frame, because we are passionate about the students getting these loans. But except you don't care.
I think they give them the things that they need. But now that these schools, if it is true, and I think it's true, have not uploaded this, don't they have sanctions for this kind of school? Because these are Nigerians who are suffering.
And you should be passionate about, providing these student loans, because you know that education is important for the students. So except you just don't care and you're like, oh yes, we provided something. Let it not be like we did not, so to fulfill our righteousness. Anywho, let's move over to our final top trending story. This says, China's new virus, federal government intensifies border checks. Following the recent outbreak of human metapneumovirus, HMPV, in northern China, the Nigerian government has heightened border checks for passengers arriving from China. HMPV, a respiratory virus, causing fever, cough, nasal congestion, shortness of breath, has primarily affected children under 24. This has led to China being overcrowded in hospitals, prompting the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, to implement stricter monitoring measures. Dr. John Oladejo from the NCDC emphasized that quarantine protocols will be enforced if necessary for travelers from the affected regions. In response to the virus, the World Health Organization, WHO, has recommended vaccination, improved ventilation, and proper hygiene as key measures to prevent its spread. As the situation unfolds, the NCDC is closely monitoring developments and preparing for any necessary interventions. The virus has already caused concern in neighboring countries, with India reporting its first confirmed HMPV cases. 2 cases were detected in Bengaluru, including an 8-month-old child, according to reports from the Union Health Ministry. However, the specific strain responsible for the outbreak remains unknown, as there is insufficient data on the virus strain found in China. The Nigerian government, alongside the NCDC, is taking these precautionary steps to prevent the virus from spreading within the country. Authorities are focused on ensuring that proper health protocols are in place at entry points, with close attention to travelers from regions affected by the outbreak. As more information becomes available, further measures will be implemented to safeguard public health. Well, kudos, because that's how COVID-19 came and took over the world. And it seemed like it was a joke at first. You're like, oh yeah, something is happening in China. Oh yes, they will be all right. And before you know it, everywhere, just like how India now has recorded their first case. I hope that's not the same thing. I hope 5 years later, we're not going to be singing the same song. So whatever we need to be doing right now, if they need to start creating the vaccine, like they've said, they need to start doing that right now, because we do not want a situation whereby the entire world was shut down. I never thought I could see that in my lifetime, but COVID-19 came and that was that.
Made in China.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, I will do that. When Trump was calling the COVID-19 a Chinese virus, the world shouted him down because it's China and all that. China is where we import a lot of things. China is should be a reliable country, and we don't know why these things always come from there. Maybe they want also to produce a vaccine that the world will have to look
so they're always going to them.
But the thing is, they should call them by their name. Because Lassa fever, for instance, is named after a place in Nigeria, or every illness that comes from a place in Africa is named after that place. Why not name these things properly? Because yes, I think we should start calling people out for the things that they're doing. Why are viruses always coming from China? It's because they're experimenting a lot of things.
Yes, and eating rubbish, they have poor hygiene.
They're experimenting things, maybe to use chemical weapons or something. They're experimenting something, and then the repercussions begin with them. But now Nigeria is saying people who are coming from China. Now India has had it. We don't know any other country that might have something, and then we are letting
it shouldn't just be China.
Everybody.
Exactly,
yes,
now.
Everybody should be tested. Everybody should, everything that needs to be done should be done until we know that this thing has come down.
Because if you're saying, just from China, if someone is coming from another country that has already moved from China, then chances are it will come into Nigeria, because you've already made your border or your immigration system porous. So anybody can just come, and you would think, oh, because they're not from China, they should be fine. But I think at this point, if we want to save ourselves, because we saw the numbers that dropped, fine, it wasn't as bad as some other countries like Italy that had elderly people, and a lot of them, they had to even turn stadiums into morgues and stuff. But every life matter. Every Nigerian life matter. So whatever you need to do to ensure the safety of those lives, that's what you should be doing. And it shouldn't just be about Chinese, people coming in. It should be about every single person.
Everybody.
So you're going to have
a Zimbabwe person could go to India.
If you're going to have checks, those monitors and whatever. As you're coming, in fact, there is no smiling. There's no two ways about it. As you're coming in, you are being checked. If you're fine, that's okay. You come into the country. If you're not, you have to go into quarantine for about 14 days. That's the only way we can ensure that this virus doesn't come into Nigeria, because like I said, every single Nigerian life matters, and we don't even have as much resources. We're still talking about fuel, we're still talking about electricity, we're still talking about infrastructure, development, education, healthcare, so many things. Do you think we have all of that resources to start putting and running helter-skelter if something was to break out in Nigeria?
I hope.
Not really. So whatever we need to do, we need to do that right now.
This is crazy, but I hope our government is not praying that one case enters. Because sometimes when we have global pandemics like this, when the world is looking,
handouts,
they now capitalize on this and make it sound so great, and then they will be so serious about it because the funding is coming into it. I hope they are not praying for this to happen so that they get so much funding. A lot of people, including maybe myself, do not believe that COVID-19 was as bad as it was in Nigeria. Yet we had those kind of numbers, but we've seen illnesses that have killed people in Nigeria, and it doesn't have so much talk.
It doesn't make the rounds.
Yeah, because it's not global. There's no funding for it and all that, and we hear people dying in hundreds. And after a while, we'll just hear this number of people have died. Nobody talks about how to prevent it and all that. We just hear the news of people dying. And all.
COVID-19, we are seeing it every single day. I would go and check what the news statistics. Like even on social media, there were blogs that were for that.
Looking at, am I breathing well?
I had to buy an inhaler. That was just in case. It was ridiculous. I just hope we're not going to have another situation like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is where we have to wrap up this segment. We'll go on a short break. We'll look at the weather, and when we return, we'll be having the paper review. So please stay with us.